Have you ever noticed how the men who make the least effort seem to get exactly what others spend years trying to achieve? While you send good morning messages, plan elaborate surprises, and bend over backward to prove your worth, there's a guy who barely responds on time and somehow, in an incomprehensible way, sparks magnetic attraction. This isn't the universe being unfair. It's something far more unsettling. You're fighting against the very nature of human attraction without even knowing it. The truth hurts because it challenges everything we've been taught about relationships. Since childhood, you've been told to be kind, attentive, and available. That true love is sacrifice, unconditional dedication, always being there. Your mother taught you to treat women well. Romantic movies showed heroes winning the heroine's heart through grand gestures and unwavering perseverance. Society built an enticing narrative: be a good man, show your feelings, and love will come naturally. But then you put this into practice and something frightening happens. The more you give, the less she reciprocates. The more available you are, the more distant she seems. Your messages take longer and longer to be answered. Dates become spaced out. Her enthusiasm gradually cools, as if your constant presence acts like a fire extinguisher thrown directly onto the flame of desire. You increase your investment thinking the problem is giving too little, when in fact you're suffocating the only fuel that keeps attraction alive. Millions of men right now are trapped in this invisible trap. They feel the woman pulling away and, desperate, respond with more attention, more presence, more declarations. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Every additional romantic gesture communicates a devastating subliminal message: I need you to feel complete. And need, counterintuitive as it may seem, is the silent killer of female desire. Here's what no one told you about attraction: it doesn't respond to logic, it responds to emotion. And the emotion that sparks interest isn't comfort, it's tension. It's not certainty, it's uncertainty. It's not satiety, it's hunger. When you become completely predictable and fully accessible, you remove the only ingredient that makes her brain release dopamine: novelty and unpredictability. You thought you were building security, but in reality, you were building emotional boredom. The problem isn't that you're too good. The problem is that you're communicating that she is the only important thing in your life, and that instantly kills the perception of value she had for you. Women aren't attracted to men who put them on a pedestal, because no one admires someone looking up from below. Admiration requires height. It requires that you're too busy building something meaningful to beg for attention. There's a word that summarizes all of this, and it will completely change how you understand relationships: scarcity. Value is always a function of scarcity. Gold is valuable because it's rare. Diamonds are valuable because they're hard to find. And high-quality male attention should be valuable because it isn't available to just anyone, at any time, without any effort on her part. But you've turned your attention into something abundant, cheap, guaranteed. And guaranteed things don't create desire, they create indifference. Now comes the part that really scares people: you can't fake scarcity. Techniques like playing hard to get won't work if deep down you're desperate for validation. She will feel it. Women have an extremely finely tuned emotional radar that detects neediness from miles away. They notice when you're calculating how long to wait before replying. When you're pretending to be busy. When your disinterest is an act, not reality. And this is even worse than being obviously needy, because it adds dishonesty to the equation. The solution isn't in techniques or psychological games. It's something much deeper and transformative: becoming genuinely someone whose life is so rich, so full of purpose and mission, that female attention becomes just one component of your existence, not the central one. This is the secret that separates men who attract effortlessly from those who chase without results. The former have a life worth living even without a relationship. The latter are trying to use relationships to fill the void where a life should exist. If you're enjoying this content and realizing that you may need to completely rethink your approach, subscribe to the channel. What comes next will dismantle every belief you have about what really makes a woman feel attraction. Because what you're about to discover isn't just abstract theory. It's the scientific and psychological explanation of why everything you've tried so far produced exactly the opposite of the desired result. And most importantly, how to reverse this process before it's too late. Let's get straight to the painful point. You are losing her right now, and every attempt to hold on only accelerates the fall. Every affectionate message that goes unanswered, every plan she cancels, every conversation that gradually cools down is not a coincidence. It's the mathematical result of a fundamental mistake in your strategy. You believed that showing interest would be interpreted as confidence, when in reality it's being read as desperation. Think about it. When she met you, something sparked her curiosity. Maybe it was your attitude, your apparent independence, the fact that you weren't chasing validation. But as soon as she showed interest, you completely changed. You started prioritizing her above everything else. Cancelled commitments to be available. Responded to messages immediately. Planned your week around her schedule. And in the process, you murdered exactly what had initially attracted her. Here's the brutal truth about emotional hunger. It only exists in absence, never in constant presence. When you are always available, always accessible, always guaranteed, her brain interprets it as abundance. And abundance eliminates urgency. Why would she invest emotional energy in someone who's already completely conquered? The game was over before it even started. You handed her the victory without her needing to compete. Women invest emotionally only in what they need to win. It's not manipulation, it's biology. The human brain's reward system releases dopamine during the pursuit, not during guaranteed possession. That's why the courtship period is so intense and routine afterward feels dull. But you skipped her courtship phase. You gave yourself completely, and now she has nothing to conquer. You removed the challenge, and with it, desire. This causes deep frustration in many men. It seems unfair. You're offering exactly what she said she wanted: attention, affection, dedication. But there's a huge difference between what people consciously say they want and what actually sparks attraction at a subconscious level. Consciously, she wants a caring man. Subconsciously, she needs a man who has options, who chooses to be with her not out of necessity, but out of genuine selective interest. Have you noticed how she acts differently with that guy who barely pays attention? How she goes out of her way to get his attention, how excited she gets when he finally responds, how she tolerates behaviors she would never accept from you. It's not because she likes him more. It's because he communicates scarcity authentically. His attention is worth more because it's rare, unpredictable, earned. Yours is worth less because it's constant, predictable, guaranteed. And here comes the paradox that destroys relationships. The more you try to prove your value through actions, the less value you demonstrate. True value doesn't need constant proof. High-value men simply are. They don't need to convince anyone. When you are constantly doing things to prove you deserve attention, you're communicating the exact opposite, that without these gestures, you wouldn't be enough. This creates a devastating vicious cycle. You feel her pulling away, so you increase your investment. More messages, more compliments, more availability. She pulls away even more. You interpret this as a sign that you need to try harder. And the abyss only grows. You're trapped in a dance where every step you take pushes her further away, but you keep dancing in the same direction because you can't see the pattern. The saddest part is that you genuinely believe you're doing the right thing. You were programmed to think that love is sacrifice, that relationships require constant effort, that showing feelings is a sign of courage. No one taught you that there's a huge difference between mature love and neediness disguised as romance. No one explained that emotional security doesn't mean always being present. It means being emotionally stable when you are present. What really kills attraction isn't your kindness. It's the emotional need behind it. When you do something expecting validation in return, when your mood depends on her response, when you lose sleep because she read your message and didn't reply, you're revealing an emotional dependency that scares any woman. Because she understands, even unconsciously, that she's being held responsible for your emotional stability. And that's a burden far too heavy. Now we reach the critical point. You have two choices. Continue believing the problem is lack of effort, that you just need to find the right technique, the right words, the right romantic gesture. Or accept an uncomfortable truth. The problem isn't what you do, it's who you are being. And changing that requires something far harder than learning tricks. It requires completely rebuilding your relationship with approval, validation, and emotional self-sufficiency. The transformation begins when you finally understand that there are no shortcuts. There are no magic phrases, foolproof techniques, or secret formulas that will make her want you if you continue being emotionally dependent. What exists is a painful but liberating path. Completely stop seeking external validation and start building a life worth living independent of any woman. This goes against every instinct you have right now. You want immediate solutions. You want to save the crumbling relationship. You want to win back that woman who has drifted away. But that urgency, that need for quick results, is exactly the poison that killed attraction from the start. As long as you're desperate for results, you will communicate desperation. And desperation repels. So here's the twist that few men can accept: you genuinely need to stop caring whether she stays or leaves. Not pretending you don't care while inside you're dying of anxiety. Not applying calculated indifference techniques while compulsively checking your phone. You need to rebuild your identity so solidly that her presence or absence becomes secondary in your existence. When you wake up thinking about her, checking if she saw your messages, planning your day around the possibility of interaction, you're giving away all your power. You have made her the gravitational center of your life. And no one respects, much less desires, someone whose entire life revolves around them. It's claustrophobic. It's suffocating. It's the opposite of attractive. Now imagine a completely different scenario. You wake up focused on your mission. Maybe it's building a business, developing a skill, improving your body, mastering an art. You have clear goals that genuinely excite you. You spend hours immersed in projects that challenge you. You train intensely. You read voraciously. You build meaningful connections. And her? She becomes a pleasant part of your life, not the reason for your life. This shift in energy is immediately noticeable. When you stop needing her to feel complete, when you demonstrate through real actions that you have a rich, purposeful life, something changes in the dynamic. Suddenly, you become the scarce resource. Your attention gains value because it's no longer guaranteed. Your meetings become memorable experiences because you're vibrating at a high frequency, not a frequency of neediness. Women have an incredible ability to sense when a man is complete versus when he is empty and seeking fulfillment. It's not about what you say, it's about the energy you emanate. A complete man doesn't need to constantly validate his masculinity. He doesn't panic when she takes time to respond. He doesn't interpret every shift in her mood as personal rejection. He simply lives, and invites her to be part of that life, without requiring her to be the whole life. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being emotionally stable. It means showing affection from a place of abundance, not scarcity. When you compliment her, it's not because you need her to validate you in return. When you plan something special, it's not to prove your worth. You do it because you genuinely want to share your abundant life, not because you're begging for scraps of attention. The devastating irony is that when you finally stop chasing, often she comes back. When you genuinely move forward and rebuild your life, when she realizes she lost your attention not because you were playing games, but because you truly evolved, her interest can resurface. But at that point, you're no longer desperate for it. You've become selective. You understand your own value. And if she doesn't come back? If it's too late? Then you've discovered something even more valuable, that your happiness never depended on her. That you are capable of building a meaningful life independent of female approval. That there are other women who will value the evolved man you have become. And that is the true prize, not winning back a specific person. But there's a crucial warning here. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. Watching this video and deciding that tomorrow you'll wake up different isn't enough. Real change requires brutal consistency. It requires training even when you don't feel like it. Working on your projects even when you're emotionally shaken. Disciplining yourself to build habits of a high-value man even when every cell in your body wants to send that desperate message. The moment that defines everything is when you feel that unbearable urge to reach out, to check if she's thinking about you, to try to force a connection. And instead of giving in, you redirect that energy towards something that builds your real value. You train. You work. You create. Every time you choose to invest in yourself instead of begging for attention, you're killing the needy man and building the desired man. The ultimate truth that changes everything is simple but revolutionary. Attraction is not something you create through effort directed at her. It's something that naturally emanates when you become the best version of yourself. You don't win over women. You become conquerable by having built a life so magnetic that people naturally want to be part of it. Think about the men you truly admire. The ones who seem to have natural success with women without appearing to try. What they have in common isn't sophisticated seduction techniques. It's a solid presence. A calm confidence that comes from knowing exactly who they are and where they're going. They're not looking for women to complete them because they're already complete. And that completeness is irresistibly attractive. When you spend 6 months transforming your body, not just physically but with mental discipline, something changes in your posture. When you build real competence in an area, when you become skilled at something that matters, your self-confidence stops being an act. When you cultivate true friendships, hobbies that energize you, projects that challenge you, you stop seeing relationships as salvation and start seeing them as a compliment. Here's the twist no one prepared you to accept. The moment you truly stop needing her is exactly the moment you become most desirable. Not because you're applying reverse psychology. Not because you're strategically pretending indifference. But because you've genuinely built a life so rich that external approval has become irrelevant. And this is felt viscerally. Women don't want to be the center of someone's universe. They want to be part of the universe of someone who already has a strong center. They want to orbit around a man who has his own gravity, not become the gravity of a man with none. When you understand this at a cellular level, everything changes. Your relationships stop being a desperate search for validation and become a conscious choice to share journeys. And here's the moral lesson you need tattooed in your soul. Healthy love only flourishes between two complete people who choose to be together, not between two desperate halves trying to become whole through each other. You're not seeking someone to save you from loneliness, emptiness, or lack of purpose. You're building a life so meaningful that you invite someone special to multiply that abundance. This means the real work was never about learning what to say or when to reply to messages. The real work has always been internal. About killing the ego hungry for validation. About developing genuine emotional self-sufficiency. About building real value through consistent actions that transform you into someone you yourself would admire. About having the courage to be alone until being accompanied becomes a choice, not a necessity. When you wake up tomorrow, you have a clear decision. Continue chasing scraps of attention, trying to convince someone of your worth through desperate gestures. Or start the hard work of building that value so authentically that it becomes undeniable. Train your body. Develop your mind. Build your career. Cultivate your passions. Become interesting by being genuinely interested in life. Over the next 90 days, if you truly commit, something extraordinary will happen. You'll wake up one day and realize you didn't compulsively check your phone. That you spent hours focused on something important without thinking about her. That your energy feels different, more stable, more centered. And in that moment, you'll understand that the attraction you chased so much was always on the other side of emotional self-sufficiency. Women will feel this change before you even say a word. The way you move. The way you speak. How you react when they test your emotional stability. You stop reacting with panic or neediness. You simply remain solid, because your happiness is no longer hostage to their behavior. And that solidity is magnetic in a way no seduction technique could ever replicate. The final irony is that the easiest way to spark attraction effortlessly is exactly this. Stop trying to spark attraction and put your effort into becoming someone worth attracting. Invest all the energy you used to spend chasing into building something real. And watch how people naturally start gravitating toward you, not because you're chasing, but because you've become worthy of being chased. If this content has changed your perspective, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because this message has the power to free men from years of frustration, from repetitive cycles of rejection, from self-destructive patterns disguised as romance. In the end, you're not seeking techniques to manipulate attraction. You're becoming the type of man who naturally attracts simply by existing with purpose, passion, and presence. This is the only real path. And it starts now.